Hi there, everybody. Welcome back to the Goldberg Show. I've Devin with me, and we have a guest, Wendy Hausman. Wendy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
So, Wendy is running for state representative. Let's see, District 65.
District
And
65, yes.
Wendy, I met you at JP's Hideout one night, and everything you said just was awesome. I think we have a lot in common with your values. And
hmm
I'd like to jump out. My first question for you is, what event or moment made you decide to get into politics?
I had boy cousins that I grew up with, and they all told me that there was things girls couldn't do. So I was like, well, then I'll become president and change that. And they were like, they started laughing, and they're like, there's never been a woman president. And so I'm like, well, then I'll just become the first woman president. And that honestly, at 5 or 6 years old, got me started. And since then, I have just kind of like followed politics, and I loved law. And so I went to college and studied political science, pre-law, and I went to college hoping that I would be someday be a legislator. So
Wow, that's
it's been a
awesome.
long time.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I met Wendy the first time at SCCPA meeting out there at Mattingly's in Lake St. Louis.
Oh,
And Nick actually introduced us. I don't know if you remember that or not.
yes, I do.
Your oldest son with you, and
Yes,
he's a tall kid. Tall
yes.
kid.
I have two boys.
But yeah, we were talking about it, and so my question for you is in a wrong direction here. As a mother of five, because you have five kids, correct?
Yes, I do.
How do you feel about everything that's going on right now with the school districts between the COVID policies, the critical race theory, and just all this indoctrination?
I would say 5 years ago, I would have a completely different perspective. But since COVID hit, it really opened our eyes to what's going on in our schools. My kids go to Fort Zumwalt, and I think we have been very blessed. And I think we've had good school boards, and we've had a great superintendent. And I think, I was kind of protected, but I know in some of the other school districts, not so much.
Mhm.
As a mom, I will protect my children first. And so when I see some of these school districts with like pornography in their schools, that makes me sick. And I'll do anything I can to protect, children from that, because I believe that is wrong. With CRT, I think that is very, very troubling. It's a theory that, some people disagree with, whether you agree or not, it's a theory. And so I just don't think that we should teach, one theory. I think it should be facts. And I think that the theories should be plentiful so that we can, draw a conclusion and let the children make up their own mind rather than indoctrination and tell children what to think. I think they need to learn how to think. Let me see, did I hit on everything? Or
Absolutely.
Yeah, really it's more about the indoctrination because, like you were saying, in the last 5 years, so much stuff has changed. Me and Alec are both far too young to have kids in schools and all that. So, I mean, just from like I was talking about the SCCPA meeting, so much stuff was brought to light to me. I don't have a kid, but I went because Nick said, if you're getting into podcasting, this is a very important hot topic right now.
absolutely.
And I was shocked. I was shocked.
Yes.
Mhm.
We spoke there.
hmm
I've met her numerous times, and she's a fighter. And it's
She is.
crazy.
Yes. And I appreciate people like that. And that's what we need. We need people from every different direction coming in and attacking this issue, because it's not just a state level. It is just not, school board. Parents do need to get involved. And the more parents get involved, the more people listen. And I think
Mhm.
that's what happened is parents were getting involved in their schools because their kids were at home and they were having, the classroom brought into their home. And so when parents had to pay attention, they're like, I can't believe some of the things that my kids are being taught. And so, it really opened eyes. And I think it showed a lot of us that we need to pay attention more as parents. I know I myself, as one of them, I need to learn. I need to know, is my kid learning, what I want them and my values, because, I don't want them coming home with, different views and values than what I, teach them.
Absolutely.
Love
Would
that.
you say that hopefully, when you win election, that would be in the top of your priorities once you get to Jeff City?
Education.
Would you say? Oh, absolutely, yes.
I'm very concerned about education. I think there's a lot of options that are out there for education, and I think parents are looking for lots of options. And
Mhm.
so, just I am very interested in seeing, more what's out there, because I think education should not be a sit in the classroom for 7 hours, because every kid can't do that. I think some
Oh,
kids need to be more hands-on. Some kids don't need to sit in a classroom for 7 hours. We
Absolutely.
need to do
That
other
was me.
options.
I feel that.
And having 5 kids, and they're all different. And so I know that, I would hope that the future will, give us more options in education for our, for elementary and high school. So I look for that. I definitely, foresee that in the future.
Absolutely. Would you say that it's, in the top 5 things that you would like to see change in Missouri right now? Like,
Yeah.
what would you say? What would be your at least top 3 things that you would like to see happen, under, the re-elections of all these people and the new elections and people working together?
I think we need stronger leadership. That's one of the top things that I'm looking for.
Absolutely.
Because I think our leadership is kind of divided, and especially being a Republican, like right now we have both houses. And so I see us starting to divide as a party. And I think that's dangerous. And we're calling each other names. I know it's the primary, so the primary does get a little nasty, but this was happening before the primary, before some people were, calling things. And so I think we need to kind of remember that we are legislators and that we need to act like legislators and stop calling each other names. Even if you disagree with someone, you have to respect them and, give them the respect that they deserve as a legislator and start acting like legislators a little more. I think we're overregulated.
Oh, absolutely.
And so as a legislator, that's one of the things that I'd like to see a little less of. I know with small businesses, I heard the governor, talk about how through executive order, that he had, I believe it was like over 200 regulations that he was able to, kind of stop just with executive order during COVID. Well, if we can live almost 2.5 years without those regulations, can we live without them permanently? So,
Right.
that's, I think, a big thing that I would like to see is, less regulations. I'd also like to see our budget. I know that they spent like $49 billion this year on their budget.
Yep.
I'd like to see that, do we need to spend that much? I know some of it was because of COVID. So, we did get some federal funds, but I think we need to be a little bit more conservative with our money. And I'd like to see that, I'd like to see less taxes any way we can. So,
that was going to be my next question for you,
Yeah.
Wendy, because I saw that's one of your values is taxes, and you want to stand strong against burden tax and with burden taxpayers and taxation practices. So that covers what you said.
As a
Definitely
mom,
covers that.
I don't want to pay any more taxes than I absolutely have to. And we had one income a lot of my life because I was a stay-at-home mom for a while, and so taxes are hard, and every anything you can do to relieve your average person, I think we need to do. And so I just think of what would I want and how would I want my younger family being taken care of, and if I can lessen the burden of less taxes, I think that's something that we should do.
Absolutely.
I think all 3 of us sitting here can agree that we want as much money in our pocket as we can keep. That's universally.
Well, because growing up, my father, he was not a Republican or a Democrat. He was very independent. And I said, Dad, I think I'm going to be a Republican when I grow up. And he said, why? And I said, because I want to be rich and I want to keep my money. And he said, I think you're definitely Republican. So I've kept that value. I'm not rich, but I do like to keep my money. So
Wendy, just one of the things that I think is really important for mine and Devin's audience is to understand how important local elections are. And something that I think that is looked at is people don't pay as close to attention as local politics as they do federal politics. And I think it's huge to have people on our show like you that are going to be running locally, because I think it's good to have that or just have your name out there. And I think it's also good for people to be more open-minded to locally rather than federally.
Absolutely. I think that's when I knock on doors, that's one of the things that people ask me is about our federal elections. Okay. And I have no control over that. But I have a little bit, I will hopefully have a little bit more control on the state level. Me not personally, but I will have that's where my area is. But I
Sure.
also think that people need to focus how important, local elections for like your alderman and your county council and your city council and your mayor and, planning and zoning, those are all, central committees. Those are important elected positions that a lot of people don't even know about or understand how they work. And so I think that we need to bring more attention to what is available for your average citizen, and they should be serving on these things. Parks, there's a park board, and that has to do with our parks, and they play such a huge role in St. Charles County. And I just think that if people want to get involved, it's a lot easier to get involved with little things because, they play a huge impact and you're going to see the effect,
Sure.
immediately. Whereas me, probably not going to see what I do for a while.
And I'm looking at
So
your
that's kind of.
I'm looking at your website and your
Go ahead,
community.
Doc, I'm sorry.
I'm looking at your website and your community involvement. I mean, it's just so much that you're involved with. I mean, it's almost 20 things that you're involved with, which is awesome. I mean, this shows that you're getting your name out there, and there's nothing but respect on my end for that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I think community's always been important. And so it wasn't like I just decided, hey, I need to get out there and be in the community. It's just, if I wasn't working or involved in church, then it was, my kids' sports or,
Sure.
There's always been something. In high school, even I was really, really active, and it's who I am and it's a part of me. And so that's just what I do.
That's awesome.
So can you explain to us a little bit like what your district would be? Because I was looking at it, and it's a really big district.
It is.
By miles. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's certain parts of O'Fallon and St. Peter's, but it runs all the way to West Alton, correct? Which is far. Right, you got Fredericktown, or sorry, not Fredericktown, Washertown, parts of St. Charles, West Alton. There's 5 people in 5 miles some places out there.
Yeah,
so I just was wondering how the door knocking's going in that
it's
aspect.
doing good. I haven't done a lot up in the northeast portion yet because I don't have a primary. You're just pulling your party ballot, and so basically, you're going to pull your party, whichever one you go with. And so I haven't done a lot up in the northeast portion, but it does go all the way from West Alton to 79. And then it drops down, and then it goes into St. Peter's, and it has a little tiny portion of O'Fallon. And it goes into Cottleville by the college. And then it goes into Mid River Small Drive, goes up that way, and then, up to the northeast portion. And I have all the northeast portion of St. Charles County, north of 70, except for the towns, Newtown, Old Town, and Frenchtown. So,
Wow.
Is that a whole separate district?
Yes. So Newtown is, I believe, 106, and there are 4 individuals running for that seat.
Really?
So, yeah.
I guess I just didn't see that in the map when I was looking at it, but because Newtown's very big, and that that's a good portion. If that wasn't our district, that would be a good portion of your district right there. There's 1,500 to 2,000 houses out there. It seems like.
Oh yeah, I mean,
there's
well,
a
it has
lot
to be
of houses.
close to 37,000 people because that's what's in an average district.
Wow.
So,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
That is a lot of people.
it is.
So
Wendy, I have another question. Or go on, Devin. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead. I apologize.
This is more of a federal. The federal question I have, the pressing issues right now, which is the overturning of Roe v. Wade and the Second Amendment rights. I was wondering if you could give our audience a stance of your view on these issues.
Sure, absolutely. I am very much, against abortion. I have 5 kids. Mm-hmm. I think life is important and it's valuable. And so, and I know that there's a lot of questions out there, about women's rights. And as someone who, studied women's studies, which is no longer, I know, it's odd. I think, I always looked at, the things that, women have done and our accomplishments, like when we got the right to vote, and those things are slowly like not as important anymore. And we're not even being considered women. And so now we have this, abortion has been, in Missouri, it's almost completely illegal. And, I think most people that I talk to, I feel like we're seeing abortion as 2 separate entities. Like I see a child, I see a life, I see a future, a human being developing. Some people see it as just cells, and they see it as nothing. And so it's hard to try to convince a person that these cells are valuable. And so, in the women's movement and in college, I was like, oh yeah, I want my rights protected. It's very important. But I think that as a little human being, we're supposed to protect those who can't protect themselves. And I want to protect those little children. I think that, there's, they're saying that it's going against women. And I just think that we need to bring up our women, as being worth more than that, and that our children are valuable. And that just because you have a child doesn't mean your life's over. And, it means it's going to be a little different, but we can, work through it. And I think if we concentrate on, how can we help women with children, and how can we, better and make the abortion decision a little bit harder, so that you think of as life as, not just a disposable thing. Because I think, look at our communities, we have these shootings in the high schools, life is just not considered valuable. We have most of 40% of all abortions are done on Black children. That's genocide on a community. And so, I hate that, and it hurts my heart. But then whenever I say that to someone who is pro-choice, they are the opposite. They're like, it's not a thing. It's just cells. And I'm like, I felt those cells move inside my body. I know what it feels like. And they are human beings now. And so, I think I can speak on that behalf.
Sure. Wow.
It's such a tricky subject. And we talked about this on our last episode. And it's totally different. We talked about on our last episode how coming from a man's standpoint is totally different than a woman's standpoint. And it becomes so much more than a religious. It becomes about a societal issue, and it's the deprivation of life, and the understanding that life is valuable. And I think it has to do with the downfall of society in a form. Is you were just talking about the school shootings and abortion, even though they're two completely different objects, as with us not teaching our kids that things in life are valuable and to respect people, and that general societal downfall that we've talked about, and everyone in our party's talked about.
I would agree. Yeah. And as far as even going on to the Second Amendment, you're talking about a protection of life. I was recently in Las Vegas. And my daughter just got married there, and we were in a restaurant, and the police come in. We're just eating burgers. It was the In-N-Out burger joint. And the police come in, and I see a police officer, and it didn't faze me at all. I'm like, oh, they're coming in here for some people. And I think of them as our protectors. And all of a sudden, the police officer lowered his hands. I didn't know what that meant, but he was telling us to get on the ground. And so we were under the impression that there was an active shooter in that restaurant. And so, it was a moment of wow. And I have never wanted my pistol in my hand more than anything, because I had my children with me. And I was like, okay, if this came down to, me and a gunman, I wish I had my pistol. But of course, I had traveled to Las Vegas, so I couldn't carry. But it made me even more, appreciate that Second Amendment rights, because the police, the police are overworked because the funding in some areas are getting smaller, and police officers, people don't want to become police officers anymore.
Right.
And so, we have a shortage. And so we're getting to the point where police officers can't show up as fast as, they once could. And so we can't always depend on them, even though they're amazing. We have to defend ourselves. And so I think that Second Amendment, that's something I believe is vital as Americans. It's in our Constitution, which I hold very, very dearly. And so that's one thing that I will protect. I feel very strongly about that.
I just got back from Las Vegas in March. I went for my girlfriend's birthday, and I felt the same way. I felt almost like naked in the form without having my pistol defended.
Yeah.
Because it's close to the unknown territory, a little different, like you're talking about. You have it to protect, your kids and your husband and all these things, and it just feels weird, doesn't it, to be able to not be able to protect yourself. You're putting your hands into the police officer's hands, which to some people is a comfortable status, But to me, I like to take my own safety into my own hands and have that handgun.
Right.
We saw it happen in St. Charles the other day at the gas stations.
Right.
But a whole rampage was ended by a legal licensed handgun owner.
Yes.
So it's a great thing Missouri has these laws in place.
And the federal government's coming after them. And I'm so glad that, we have an attorney general who is pushing back. So I'm very, very thankful for that. And I hope that continues.
That SLEEP Act. What was it, 2018? I believe our buddy Nick and he actually helped pass that bill that basically states that federal agents that are trying to force federal gun laws that are new are null and void in the state of Missouri, and they will be punished as a crime, which is an amazing bill. It's an amazing bill, just as much as his heartbeat bill was an amazing bill. We talk about Nick on our podcast. I'm sure you're rather fond of him too. I'm super fond of him. Alex super fond of him. Just a great guy to talk about.
Yes, I like Nick. He's a friend.
Now, Wendy, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I know another one of your values is small businesses, and I think that's awesome because, as all three of us know, small businesses is the backbone of our country, and I think after COVID and after the lockdowns, a lot of small businesses weren't able to stay open, and I think it's awesome that you're fighting for small businesses and supporting them. And so I just wanted to get that out to our audience that you are a big supporter of small businesses.
Yes, I'm a member of all 4 chambers of commerce in St. Charles County. So I do know a lot of business owners and many of the people, that are involved in businesses throughout St. Charles County. And so, I saw firsthand when they were struggling. And I mean, they're still, struggling, with now our economy and trying to get products, in their businesses and restaurants trying to, get workers and, all businesses are just struggling still. So, I know we're a big, strong workforce development state, and so I hope to continue that. I was one of the people who were on the executive committee to bring Build My Future to St. Charles County, which was, helpful to try to get high school kids to learn about the trades. So that was like a big project that I got to work on, and I was very blessed to, be a part of that because I think it is important for we need more tradesmen.
Absolutely.
They don't push enough in school, do they?
Now they are starting to. They really are open to that. I was in a program called Vision, and so we had an idea of, we need to how can we get more high school kids involved in, just knowledge? Because I think so many parents, myself included, we thought, oh, your kid has to go to college. And so, we think, or they won't be successful. And that's not a true statement.
Sure.
There are so many different things that kids can go into and they can be successful and they can, make lots of money and be, happy individuals without a college degree. So, I'm very, very pro, workforce development and the trades.
Love that.
Well, congrats for tradesmen. And I mean, it's a very successful way to build a career. College is not a necessary thing. And, I'm super glad that you were able to do that to push it to kids because, a lot of kids are freaking out because they're like, I don't want to go to college. I don't feel like I'm smart enough for college. And then they understand that, running a crane, you can make $150,000 a year sitting in an air-conditioned crane all day. And I wish when I was in high school, they would have taught that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, they're getting better and they're working on that. And I'm seeing that. I mean, I was just so amazed because I kind of brought this idea to the schools. And because I have a lot of connections in the community, we were able to get a group of all the school districts to come together and say, hey, we have this idea to bring this trade show to St. Louis or to St. Charles County. And they were all on board and we had, money, they were, willing to put some money into it. And, the community really came together and worked together. And so, I mean, it was a neat project to be a part of and, just how our Francis House School District worked on it and they kind of headed it up. But it was the entire community, the business community, the education, people, everybody came together and it happened in April and the governor came and checked it out. So, I mean, it was a big deal.
Okay. I want to drop back to the CRT real quick. I know there's something in the Wentzville School District recently within the past couple months. There was something on a test. I'm not exactly sure what was brought up on the test. Do you know exactly what that was?
I recall a little bit. It had something to do with something about it, it was describing an individual, and it was kind of like a racist description, and it was like, who would have that, who would that be? And it was like, had different people.
Okay.
And one was Republican, and so because it was like the person was making a racial statement, it must have been a Republican, to my understanding. And I don't have it in front of me, and I that's from recall, but I think it was something like that.
So something along the lines of, if someone said something about all lives matter, this person would predominantly vote for this race. Yeah, it was something along that lines. I haven't been able to find it. We talked about this a couple of times, and I can't find the actual test question online anymore. I think that it's been kind of buried in the internet. I'm sure I could spend hours and probably find it, but they pretty much pulled it off the internet as soon as it got up for lawsuits.
I think Nick may have it. He may have it.
Oh, I'm sure Nick does have it. I'm sure Wendy has it as well. I'm sure Amber as well with CCPA. I've been talking to her a little bit.
Oh, yes.
We're talking, but reading her comments on Facebook and stuff, and it's just the whole organization is amazing. I could talk about it for hours. The stuff that they post that some people that work for the district haven't even seen. There's people in the group that work for Winslow and had no knowledge of anything that they're posting on there.
Right.
I mean, they're like camping out or something in the school district office finding this stuff. I have no idea how they're finding some of this stuff. It's amazing to me.
Yeah.
It's exactly what we need, if you ask me.
Well, I know, because now, like I said, before we trusted our schools and we had complete faith that what they were doing was right. But now that we've seen, no, they don't always make the best choice, in my values. So, we have to check on that. We have to watch out.
So you were saying earlier, with CRT, it really hasn't gotten into the Zumwalt districts, correct?
Well, I'm not going to say that it's not. I'm sure it's there.
Okay.
But it hasn't been brought out in the open.
Sure.
But I'm sure it's there. I mean, I have great relationships with my kids' school and with the principals and teachers, and I haven't personally seen it, so I don't want to say it isn't or it is, because it could be. But I'm just saying that I was really good friends with the president of the Zumwalt school board, and I know that if he knew anything about it, Mike Swearingen, he would have done something, because he's very much against it, and he's a strong Republican. So, and he's running now for state representative as well. So,
oh yeah, I heard about that. What district is it again?
That would be 64.
64.
Mm-hmm.
So the neighboring to you, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. You got anything else, Alec?
Yeah. Wendy, is there anything else you'd like to get out to our audience?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There's anything else? You guys hit a lot of good stuff.
And so, is there anyone that you're particularly looking forward to I guess, having a good, healthy relationship with in Jefferson City?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to be the one who is not afraid to meet with both sides. I think that it is good. I grew up old school. I'm old enough to be your parents. Okay. So, I grew up like during the Bill Clinton era, and, before that, Republicans and Democrats used to sit down, have a beer together, have dinner together, and they agree to disagree. And I think we need to have a little bit more of that. And I'm hoping,
absolutely.
And a lot of people say, oh, you're just dreaming, but I'm hoping that I can sit down with, the Democrats and, say, hey, I know we disagree on things. I have friends who are Democrats, and we disagree on a lot of things, but you know what, we can come together and we can talk and we can say, what's the main issue here? How can we somehow meet in the middle? And I think sometimes you got to do that.
Absolutely.
I think that's what's best for Missouri. I think that's what University of Missourians want, is they don't want this left and right, and this constant bicker. They want to find something that we can meet in the middle on. And I think that that's very important. I kind of get the feeling that that's what you're getting at.
Yeah,
I heavily agree with.
It doesn't mean I'm gonna, sway and go, oh, okay, let's get rid of abortion, or we want to have abortion in Missouri. No, but those are the things that we can discuss and try to, come together. Is what can we agree on? We want to keep, protect women's rights. I mean, that's kind of like what it boils down to. So, where can we meet in the middle? Is there something we can do? We can't both win 100%. So you got to come, together a little bit. And so I think it's also about listening. The biggest thing I get when I talk to people is they feel frustrated because no one listens. And so I want to listen and I want to hear, and I'm open to listening. Now, granted, again, I'm going to have my values, that some of those aren't going to sway, but I want to be reasonable. I want to have common sense, and kind of bring that to the table, because sometimes I feel like the common sense is gone. And a lot of these things that they talk about,
absolutely,
federal or state or even local, you're like, where's the common sense? Like, that's just ignorant, So I'd like to hopefully bring a little bit of common sense.
It seems like that's something that is definitely going to happen. Like you talked about earlier, the no name calling. That's something that I definitely agree. That if you're going to meet in the mail and you're going to have conversations about things, people are less willing to have that conversation. I'm assuming more so in politics if you're going to be slandering their name and all that stuff.
Right.
So people don't understand that. They just think that politicians are just throwing stuff at each other, trying to win. Get the upper hand, and I don't feel that from a lot of our candidates right now, including you. I feel like that you're very capable of going in and doing the things that, especially your constituents want, because your district is obviously majority a Republican district, correct? It's a lot of farmland and a lot of all that. So
it's about 57% Republican.
Oh, really? I thought it'd been a little higher than that.
Mm-mm. No, the more west you go, the more Republican. But the
really?
more east you go, it's a little bit more Democrat. So
that's in the city.
Yeah.
Well, Wendy, me and Devin, I have nothing else. I think we hit off on everything I wanted to.
Awesome.
And I really appreciate you coming on, Wendy. It's a pleasure, and I'm sure me and Devin will see you at Rotary again next month.
I'm excited to see you guys, because we one thing we would like is more young people, and
absolutely.
that are interested in getting involved, and that's we're excited, because we were talking about you guys last night, so hopefully you guys will be able to come and join us. We've got some exciting things for the future, so we'll see where we can go with that.
Awesome. Thank you again, Wendy, for coming on.
Thank you again.
Well, thank you both.
Have a good rest of your week.
You too.